kunjayuno rati kelisirai jailat nibiyuktira bhiksanina Tatarati dakshadati balabhasya Vande guroshi charanaravindam Chakshadharitena samasta sastri Praktashtata bhavyavyativa sadvi Kinto prabhuya piyaiva tasya Vande guroshi charanaravindam Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasadana lakadikatopi Dayam stutvam stasya yasastri sangam Vande guroshi charanaravindam Samsaradavanaladidaloka Janaya karuna gana ganatyam Bhaktasya kalyana gunaravasya Vande guroshi charanaravindam Vande guroshi charanaravindam Vande guroshi charanaravindam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna prasthaya Bhutale Shrimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna prasthaya Bhutale Shrimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavani Paskatya Desadarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavani Paskatya Desadarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Jaya Shri Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Bola Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Bola Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Ram. Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Tagore Premanandi ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhupada Chastitara Srimad Tamangri Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Gosha Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samkunda Radha Kunda Giri Gauran ki jai. Vrindavana Dham ki jai. Mayapura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to Samudavaris, all glories to Samudava, glories to Shri Guru, Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Samastha Bhutali Srimata Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pachari, Nirvisesa Sanyamani Paskati Vesatani. Dustamana Tumi Kishira Vaishna, Patistara Tare Nirjanat Gare. Tavare Nama Kevala Kaitava, Patistara Tare Nirjanagare. Tavare Nama Kevala Kaitava, Patistara Tare Nirjanagare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jadera Pratishta Sukyarera Vista Jananakita Hamaya Vaibhav Jananakita Hamaya Vaibhav Kanaka Kamini Nivasayamini Pavyaki Kajananidya Sesa Manaka Kamini Nivasa Kamini Pavyaki Kajananidya Sesa Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Tomara Kanaka Bogera Janaka Kanakera Dwari Sehebo Mada Kaminir Kama Nahitavadama Tahara Malika Kevalayada Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Patista Sataru Jadamaya Maru Napela Ravana Yujiya Raga Vaishnavi Pratishta Tate Koronista Tahana Bajilat Labia Gora Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Harijana dvesa pratistasa klesa koroke no tabeta haragora. Vaishnavera pace pratistasa ace tate kabu nahi anitya vaipa. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Say Hare Sambandha Suniya Maya Ganda Taha Kabuno Ekjadir Kaitava. Patista Chandali Nirjanata Jali Ubaye Jani Ho Maya Karora. But no, Prabhu, just listen. 1, 2, 3, 1, not da da da. You go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you can't, let somebody else play. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. You're going off. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When you sing this song, you have to get all the pauses right. Just follow me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Say Hare Sambandha Suniya Maya Ganda Taha Kabunoi Jadir Kaitava. Say Hare Sambandha Suniya Maya Ganda Taha Kabunoi Jadir Kaita. Patita Kandali Nirjanata Jali Ubaye Janiyo Maya Karura. Patista Chandali Nirjanata Jali Ubaye Janiho Maya Karura. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Kirtana Chadibo, Pratishta Makibo, Ki Kaja Dundiya Jadrasta Pura, Kirtana Chadibo, Pratishta Makibo, Ki Kaja Dundiya Jadrasta Pura, Madhavendra Puri, Baba Gade Churi, Nakorilo Babu Sadai Janaho, Baburi, Baba Gade Churi, Nakorilo Kabu Sadai Janabo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. No, don't go too fast. You're not getting the pauses right. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good. Tomara Pratishta Sukera Vishta Tara Sahasama Kabu Namana Matsarata Vase Tumi Jadarase Maje Chocha Diya Kirtana Sostra Matsarata Tumi Jadavase Maje Chocha Diya Kirtana Sostava Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Tai Dustamana Nirjana Bhajan Pachari Chochalet Kuyogi Vaiba Prabhu's Tai Dustamana Nirjana Bhajan Pachari Chochale Kuyogi Vaiba Prabhu Sanatane Paramajatane Shiksha Dilo Yaha Chinto Sesa Prabhu Sanatane paramachatane shiksha dilo yachinto sesa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sedutikata bulona savata Uchai save koro hari namarava. Sedutikata bulona savata Uchai save koro hari namarava. Faguar yukta bada ara mukta kabuna bhavito ekara sabha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dustamana tumi kishera Vaishnava Patistara tare nirjana kare. Okay, you're going too fast again. Dustamana tumi kishera Vaishnava Patistare tare nirjana gare. Wait a minute. Wait, no, you're going too fast. Okay, let me try it again. Dustamana tumi kishera Vaishnava Patistare tare nirjana gare. Dustamana tumi kishera Vaishnava Patistara tare nirjana gare. Tava harinama kevala kaitava Patistara tare nirjana gare. Tava harinama kevala kaitava Patistara tare nirjana gare. You have to do like the Carnatic singers. You go. Right? If you do that, you catch it. Dustamana tumi kishera Vaishnava Patistara tare nirjana gare. Dustamana tumi kishera Vaishnava Patistara tare nirjana gare. Tava harinama kevala kaitava Patistara tare nirjana gare. Tava harinama kevala kaitava Patistara tare nirjana gare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jade Pratishta Sukere Vista Janaki Tahad Mahayara Vahiba Jade Pratishta Sukere Vista Janonaki Tahayar Baba Kanaka Kamini Nivasa Yamini Bhavya Kikaja Anitya Saipsa Bhavya Kikaja Sanitya Saipsa Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Tomara Kanaka Bogera Janaka Kanakera Dwari Seva Ho my God. Kaminir Kama Nahitava Dhamma Tahar Malika Kevalayada Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Patista Sataru Jadamaya Maru Napela Ravana Yuji Raga Vaishnavi Patista Tate Koronista Tahana Bajila Labierora Vaishnava Tahana Bajila Labierora Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Harijana Dvesa Pratista Saklesa Koro Keno Tabeta Haragora. Vaishnavira Pace Pratista Sache Tate Kabunahi Anidya Vaiva. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Te Hari Sambandha Sunya Maya Ganda Taha Kabunoi Jahadira Kaita. Pratista Chandali Nirjanata Jali Ubaye Jani Ho Maya Karora. Kirtana Chadibo Pratista Mahakibo Kikajadundiya Tartisa Gora. Kirtana Chadibo Kikajadundiya Tartisa Gora. Madhavendra Puri Baba Gade Churi Nakori Lokabu Sadai Janabo. Tomara Pratista Sukena Visista Tarasaha Samakahabo Namana. Matsarata Vase Tumi Jadarase Mache Chadiya Kirtana Susta. Tai Dustamana Nirjana Bhajan Pachari Chochalet Kuyoiki Vaiba. Prabhu Sanatane Paramahajatane Shiksha Dilo Yaha Chinto Sesa. Siddhuti Kata Bulona Savata Uchai Swave Koro Hari Namarava. para mukta kabuna bhaviyo ekwara sama Tagore Premanandi Ki Jai. So these are 10 verses of 19 verses of this wonderful poem by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
This is just first half of the poem.
Yeah, there's 9 more. There are 9 more. Anyway, you can read the translation on the back. We went over it last night. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavani Paskatya Disatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vindam Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Grantaraj Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Haribol. So today we're going to hear about a very interesting point, and Prabhupada writes about in a letter, and we're going to begin with 18th chapter, 66th verse. Sarvadhamam parityaja mamekam saranam vraja am tvam sarva papebhyo uksayishyami samasucha. Abandoning all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. It says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So let's repeat that. Abandon all varieties of religion. And just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, you want to read that?
The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and processes of religion. Knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Super Soul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjun should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the 8th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, Simply by the process of surrendering to Sri Krishna, he is automatically free. There is no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities. With faith and love, one should surrender unto him. The process of surrender to Krishna is described in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyatati vishvaso gopsisve varanam tatha atma nikshepa karpanye shadvidha sharanagatihi. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his own position in the social order, but if by executing his duty one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. There is no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. One should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, at once he becomes free from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory processes by cultivation of knowledge, meditation in the mystic yoga system, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender unto Krishna will save him from unnecessarily wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be freed from all sinful reactions. One should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. His name is Krishna because he is all attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some of them are attached to the impersonal Brahman vision. Some of them are attracted by the super soul feature, etc. But one who is attracted to the personal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and above all, one who is attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna himself, is the most perfect transcendentalist. In other words, devotional service to Krishna in full Krishna consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Karma yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics and devotees are all called transcendentalists. But one who is a pure devotee is the best of all. The particular words used here, ma shuchaha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how can one give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender unto Krishna, but such worry is useless.
Read the verse.
Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear.
So surrender unto Krishna is the most confidential part of the Vedic knowledge, and it's the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. In other words, devotional service to Krishna with full surrender is the essence of Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic literature, and it's the most confidential part of knowledge. No? Should I speak here? Or? Anyway, there's nothing here.
That's what he's like.
There's nothing here.
No, I'm already got it. It's working.
Okay. As Krishna says, Yomam ajam samoha janati purushottama sasarvavid bhajate mam sarva bhavena bharata. So in the 15th chapter, 19th verse, Krishna says, whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting, is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharatam. In the same way, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhava matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the origin of everything material and spiritual. Those who know this surrender unto me and engage fully in my devotional service. So these are the symptoms of a liberated person. There's something wrong with this. There's an echo. You can turn that off. So this Vedic knowledge is called Shruti, or learning by hearing. Just like a child learns by hearing. They hear their parents speaking Chinese or Hindi or whatever. After 5-6 years they start speaking. After even 2 years they start speaking, but then they become more fluent by 5 or 6 years. Just by hearing, they didn't study. Then they go to school and they start studying how to speak Hindi, but they already know. And the same way, this knowledge, Vedic knowledge, is supposed to be heard from a bona fide source, and then you learn. And one has to receive it from authorities and genuine representatives of Krishna. So everybody has ears, everyone can hear. So what's the difference between the hog or the elephant? Elephant has much bigger ears than we do. I mean, our ears are like this, right? Elephant's ears are like that. So what's the difference? Well, elephant is limited by its body. We're also limited, but we're not as limited as the elephant or the mouse or the dog. So the human body is made especially for self-realization. And if we use it for sense gratification, we waste the purpose of human life. Dharma samastitak pumsa vishvaksena katasuyat. Not padayat yadi ratim shama evahi kevalam. So this says that Shama Evahi Kevalam, we waste our life, even if we do all the duties of spiritual life, but we don't develop attraction to Krishna, we've wasted our life. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. So you can tell who is a genuine devotee and who is so-so. Because a genuine devotee is very eager to hear. But their hearing is proactive hearing. It's very inspirational hearing. There's an inspirational speaker and there's inspirational hearing. Just like there's Sukadeva Goswami and there's Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit was an inspired listener. He had a real reason to listen. He was going to die in 7 days. So he wanted to figure out what is the purpose of life. Now if we think I'm going to die 50 years from now, I'm not that interested in hearing. I can hear so many other things, the news, the latest Bollywood movie, gossip, politics, and so forth. But if I know I'm going to die soon, let's say 7 minutes from now, or 7 weeks from now, whatever, then I'm going to be more interested in hearing about this. So devotee, he lives as if he's going to die in 1 minute. And the karmi, he lives as if he's going to die in 100 years. So, therefore, materialistic people are not interested in hearing. But devotees are very interested in hearing because they know they're going to get something that is beyond any comparison. Now, what is that thing that we get? This is explained here. When Krishna says that you surrender unto me, I will protect you from all sinful reactions. Now, this is what's causing us trouble. We have committed sinful acts in this life, and especially in previous lives. The ones in previous lives we can't remember them, but the reactions are there. Therefore, we're having a peaceful life. All of a sudden, one of our family members dies. We're having a peaceful life. We have an accident. We're having a peaceful life. We go to the doctor. The doctor said, "Oh, you have high cholesterol." We're having a peaceful life. All of a sudden, you get fired from your job. You're having a peaceful life. You get in an argument with somebody. So you see, these things are happening, interrupting our peaceful, happy life, and we can't really figure out where they're coming from. They're coming from our previous karma, and there's no way we can tell when it's going to happen. Well, there's different types of karmic reactions. The mature karmic reactions, like for example, I have a mature karmic reaction. I was born ugly, so you can't change that. But some people are born, crippled, blind. Maybe one of their appendages doesn't work. Things like that. Those are mature. Or the budding, or else you have legal problems, financial problems, and so forth. These are mature types of karmic reactions. Then the budding ones, the ones that just beginning to bud, they haven't matured yet, but the bud is just like, this is spring, so the buds are going to start growing with sunny weather like this, right? The weather is warming up. So that's in the form of desires. I want this. I have to have this. Why can't I have it? So people are full of these material desires. That means it's the beginning of the reaction is going to come out. Either we're going to commit more sinful activities, or we're destined to do certain things, and it's just the beginning of it, those type of desires. And also irresistible attractions. Just like little kids, they're not attracted too much to the opposite sex, but when they get to be 12, 13, 14, they come into puberty, they start being attracted. They don't really understand where this is coming from. It's coming from the previous life. Unfinished material desires. So Krishna consciousness acts on the level of thinking, feeling, so that we don't go to willing and acting. If one is trained in Krishna consciousness, you can't stop the desires from coming. Just like it says, apuryamanam achalam pratistam apak samudram pavisanti yadva. Second chapter, samudram apak pavisanti yadva tadvat kamaya na pavisanti sarve sasantim apnati nakama kami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. So it's normal that we have desires. But if we've been trained in Krishna consciousness, we can stop the material desires on the level of thinking and feeling, and not going to willing and then acting. And we can also purify those desires on the level of thinking and feeling. It's like Prabhupada said, if you're attracted to pretty women, bring pretty women to Krishna. If you're attracted to eating nice food, serve nice food to devotees. So you're still dealing with the nice food, or handsome men, or pretty women, but you're bringing them to Krishna. You see. So one can purify the desires, or one can reject them on the level of thinking and willing by development of Krishna consciousness. One cannot blank them out completely, but one can either purify them or reject them, and that means one is actually a devotee. So then, again in the 15th chapter, it's another very nice verse that says, Iti guya tamam buya Shastram idam uktam mayanaga etad budva buddhimam syat kritakrityas chabharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. In other words, when Krishna says, Sasarvavid bhajate mam, knowing that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one engages fully in my devotional service. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So, many of us, or all of us, have accepted the idea that that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we should use our energy and mental acuity, wealth, whatever we have, in the service of the Lord. We've understood that. And we're trying to do it, right, with more or less success. That this is the substance or the essence or the perfection of all Vedic knowledge, is to come to this conclusion. Now, there's a difference between jnana and vijnana. Jnana means you theoretically understand something. Just like a person can theoretically understand that if I smoke a cigarette, it's bad for my health. Does it mean that they don't smoke cigarettes? Well, obviously not. There's still 25, 30 million people smoking cigarettes in the United States, or more. Right? So, theoretical knowledge is not good enough. And a person who just has theoretical knowledge, they could teach a course. They could teach a DYS course, right? But it doesn't mean they're going to follow the conclusion of the course, you see. So that's theoretical. And practical knowledge, vijnana, means you put into practice in specific situations this theoretical knowledge. You know how to do it. Just like we say that krodhat bhavati samaha, samahat smriti vibrama. So by developing krodha or anger, we end up in a state of delusion. Well, I know plenty of devotees that get angry and get deluded. They know theoretically it's not good, but they still do it. Right? So why is that? Because they have not gone to the level of vijnana. They're simply on jnana level, theoretical knowledge. They haven't become, they don't know the practical application of it. So therefore, on the level of thinking and willing, they're failing. And they're going, thinking and feeling, they're failing, and they're going to willing and action. Whereas a genuine devotee who has jnana and vijnana, they can stop themselves. You can't stop desiring, but you can stop yourself or purify the desire on the level of thinking and willing. Therefore it says here, thus one will become intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. If one actually does what? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. Rakshisyai titi. Rakshisyai titi vishvaso gutrite varanam tata apnanikse pakalpanya sadvida saranangati. So Rakshisyai titi vishvaso. Right. Okay, so accepting everything favorable for devotional service, rejecting everything that's not favorable, accepting that Krishna is your only protector, not having any interest separate from Krishna consciousness, accepting everything as the mercy of Krishna, good or bad, and always remaining humble and meek in devotional service. So these are all qualities of a person who has gone from jnana to vijnana. These are the qualities that they have because they've surrendered completely. Surrendered to what? Surrendered to devotional service offered to Krishna. And you have to surrender to it, just like you have to surrender to go to work every day. Right? It's a conscious, willful decision. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to get ready, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to do everything my team leader says, and I'm going to come back, right, and get ready for the next day. And maybe I'll work even at home, right? So, these are all conscious decisions that you make. And you force yourself to do it. You might not like to do it, but you know, you don't do it, you don't pay the mortgage. There's no food on the table. You can't buy a nice house or a nice car, whatever the incentive is. Well, in the same way, we have to feel the necessity to sacrifice in order to gain time and energy to serve Krishna. It's a willful decision that you have to make every day. It's not just a one-time decision. One time you decide this is my orientation in life, but then every day you have to push yourself to actually do it. So one becomes intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge by putting into application or applying this knowledge in your life, and especially in practical situations. So it says, in other words, by understanding this philosophy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engaging in His transcendental service, everyone can become freed from all contaminations of the modes of material nature. Well, that's what's influencing us. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. We become entangled in the material nature because of the influence of these modes. And how do they influence us? By associating with them. Like, for example, one can say that when they wake up early in the morning and they come to the morning program in the temple, it's generally the mode of goodness. The chanting rounds, chanting kirtan, it's generally a mode of goodness. But then you get a phone call from work, someone says, hey, you got to get in here right away, you know, there's a big problem, you made a mistake yesterday, you're an idiot. You know. So all of a sudden, mode of passion begins, right? Then you get to work and he said, and your co-worker's abusing you. He says, it's because of you, huh? We're all suffering because of you. And then you get angry. So I didn't make that mistake. Look here, here's the log right here. You're the guy who made the mistake. So what do you mean I made? That's not right. You're manufacturing this. You know, I'm going to tell the team leader. I'm going to report you. So then you get angry. So now you went from goodness to passion to ignorance, right? And now it's staying in the mind. I hate this guy. I'd like to kill him. You know, my God, I want to do everything I can to get him thrown out. So you see, it went. So you started off in goodness. It went to passion. You ended up in ignorance, and then the ignorance lingers. Before you go to sleep at night, you think, I'm going to get even with that guy. And you wake up, so I'm going to do everything I can to get rid of him. You know. So now you're not Krishna conscious anymore. See, most of the day was spent in ignorance. So what do we do about this? Kirtaniya Sadahari. By remembering Krishna always, the Smaranam, and what's the easiest way? Always engage in Krishna Kirtan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So the process of understanding this is called devotional service. It's not called study. Study has nothing to do with this. The process of understanding Krishna consciousness is devotional service. Some people like to bring it on the level of studying. People still make the same mistakes even after studying and getting a degree. Would you agree with that? Yeah. You can get your PhD in Krishna consciousness. You can still make the same mistakes you did when you were a karmi. Right? So it's not, the understanding does not come from studying. It comes from practical devotional service. And therefore, it's only by always engaging in devotional service that one can become free of the influence of the three modes. Now, what service was Prahlad Maharaj doing? He was in prison. He was always being harassed with life-threatening situations. What was his service? Always remembering Krishna. Chanting, remembering Krishna. That was his service, right? In other words, there is no material condition that can stop you from performing service to Krishna. Even if they put you in jail, put a muzzle on your mouth, put the blindfolds on, tie your hands, you still can't be stopped. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I mean, chanting, you don't have to chant out loud. The holy name acts just as much silently or out loud. But it's better to chant out loud. But if you can't, if you're muzzled, you can still chant. They can't stop you. You say, no material condition can stop devotional service because it's transcendental. So devotional service is the process of spiritual understanding. Wherever devotional service exists, the material contamination cannot coexist. Wherever devotional service exists, the material contamination cannot coexist. So this is something that it's easy to divert one's attention away from this. People think, oh, I got to get this degree, I got to get this. Then I'll. Just like many times the devotees were telling Prabhupada in the beginning of the movement, I got to learn Sanskrit. Prabhupada says it's not necessary to learn Sanskrit. You don't need to learn Sanskrit. We have word for word and the commentary. You don't have to learn. He said it'll take you 12 years to learn Sanskrit, and there's no guarantee you'll understand it. There's so many scholars that know Sanskrit, they don't understand Bhagavad Gita. They don't understand Srimad Bhagavatam. You ask them a question, what's the purpose of life? They give you some baloney answer. Some stupid answer that has nothing to do with Krishna's teaching. So just because you know Sanskrit doesn't mean anything. But you're engaged sincerely in devotional service under the guidance of bona fide devotees. That means something. That means that you're beginning to understand. So, because devotional service and Krishna are one and the same, they're non-different. They're both spiritual. And devotional service takes place within the internal energy of the Lord. It's not part of the apara prakriti. It's part of the internal energy of the Lord. In other words, meaning Radharani. This energy of devotion and love for Krishna. So, you can go from the material world to the spiritual world through devotional service while you're still in the material world. You see? It's very interesting. Just like in the material world, there's Svetadvip. Svetadvip is a transcendental, eternal planet where Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is present. Right? Can you go there? Well, the Devas can't go there. Right? But you can go there with consciousness by engaging in the service. Just like Balaji is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. You engage in the service of Balaji, you're in Svetadvipa. While you're still in the material world. You see. But it's only through devotional service. It's not through Bhangra, it's not through, Kathak, or any of these things. It's through devotional service. It's not through studying either. Did Andal study? No, she never studied anything. She just was inspired with love for Ranganath and actually Krishna. Did Tulsi Devi, was she a Vedic scholar? No. Are the gopis Vedic scholars? No. Are the wives of the Brahmanas Vedic scholars? No. Their husbands are, but they're not. But they're pure devotees of Krishna. When there's an opportunity to serve Krishna, their husbands ran away from it, but the wives immediately did it, even though they risked their life doing it. You see? So this is the connection. It's devotional service. It's not study. It's not money. It's not puja. It's pure devotion. So wherever Krishna is and is being served, there's no Maya. It's when we turn just like if I'm looking at the sun, I don't see any darkness. But if I turn my back to the sun, I see my shadow. So if I'm always engaged in chanting, remembering, hearing about Krishna, there's no Maya. Maya cannot stand there. It's when I turn my back to Krishna that Maya takes hold of me immediately. So wherever devotional service is present under proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, there's no question of ignorance. Agyan. So everyone must take, or should take, to this Krishna consciousness movement and engage in devotional service to become intelligent and purified, not stupid and contaminated. That's the condition we're in now. But if we want to become intelligent and purified, we should take to practical devotional service under the guidance of bona fide devotees. Then we come to the level of actually understanding Krishna. And the proof is we engage full-time. Mam chayo vibhicharena bhakti yogena sevate saganam samatityaitan pramabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in my devotional service, Krishna says, and doesn't fall down under any circumstance, always remains dedicated to me, they become free of the influence of the three modes of material nature, and they come to me. So, as long as we're influenced by the modes of material nature, we'll never be able to become free of ignorance. Now, there's two reasons why we don't get free. They're called the weaknesses of the heart. Just like Arjuna had a weakness of the heart. Oh, how can I fight? One side are my cousin brothers, the other side are my brothers. One side is my guru and my Pitamaha, my godfather, grandfather. The other side, oh no, I can't fight. Either way I'm going to kill my family members. Either way it's going to be miserable. I won't fight. So, miserable for who? Miserable for Arjuna. He couldn't see how he could be happy either way, winning or losing. So he's calculating only on me. See, there are 5 factors to every action, right? The place, meaning the body, right? In the senses, because the senses are the instruments that we use. I mean, there's a body, but the body has senses. They're the instruments by which we can accomplish the will of the soul. Without the senses, you can't do anything. The senses include the mind, seeing, hearing. It's just like, you have a computer, but the screen doesn't show you anything. What good is it? Right? You can't see anything on the screen. The screen's broken. The computer works, but the screen is broken. Or you have a computer, there's no sound on the computer. Or you have a computer, there's no connection to the internet. Or you have a video camera with your computer, it's broken. So these senses that we have, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, all these things, these are the ways we can accomplish our mission. If you just have a body with no senses, you can't do anything. Yeah, you can have a body, but none of the senses work. Then you're handicapped. So the place, the senses, the endeavor, and anyway, there's 5 of them. The ultimate
Yourself and
huh?
our own selves and the super.
I don't think so. Okay, let's just do this. Oh yeah, you're the performer. The performer, and then Krishna. So Arjuna was only taking 4 of these into account. Body, the senses, himself, and the endeavor. He didn't calculate Krishna into the equation. Therefore he was confused. Couldn't figure out what to do. But once he accepted Krishna as his guru, and Krishna explained to him what he should do and what would happen to him if he doesn't do it, and who he is himself. See, that's the key to understanding Krishna. You have to hear from Krishna who he is. Just like if I want to know who Paramananda is, I don't ask his wife. I have to ask him. He's an expert on who he is. He knows when he was born. He knows where he went to school. He knows what he likes, what he doesn't like. His wife only knows an aspect of him. She doesn't understand him completely. Maybe she sees things that he doesn't see. That could be true. But he is the expert of who he is. Right? So who is the biggest expert on who Krishna is? Is it Vinod Bhave? Is it, I don't know. Is it Mahesh Yogi? Is it Nityananda? Nonsense? Not our Nityananda, nonsense in Belgium. No, it's Krishna himself. So who could tell us who's the expert on who Krishna is? Either Krishna or Arjuna. Arjuna is Krishna's intimate devotee, who understood who he is because we know he understood because he surrendered completely to the Lord. Service. So these are the experts, right? Okay, so therefore these weaknesses of the heart can hold us back. Even if we have theoretical knowledge of Krishna, we can still not engage wholeheartedly in the service. Now, what are these weaknesses of the heart? There are two major weaknesses of the heart. One is we become attracted to becoming the lord of the whole material nature or some part of it. Just like, you have a bunch of kids and they're all talking about what they want to be. And one of them says, I want to be Bill Gates. Okay. Well, Bill Gates has a big chunk of the material energy under his control. Say. Another person says, well, I don't want to do that. I want to be a champion skier. Ah, that's another chunk right there. Right? Another person, no, I want to be a basketball player. That's another chunk, right? Basketball. Or I want to be a football quarterback. Well, a football quarterback, there's a guy just got the biggest contract in the history of the NFL. $129 million to sign up for another season or sign up for a few seasons. Huh? Yeah. So, you're not a failure if you become a big quarterback. You become a very rich man, or a basketball player, or a baseball player, or a scientist, or Bill Gates. Each one of those desires is to dominate some part of the material nature. Dominate and control. Right? So, as soon as we accept that endeavor, I want to be the best basketball player in the world, we give up devotional service progressively. The more we become involved in doing that, the more we give up. We say, I don't have time to go and do artsy. It's a waste of my time. I got to study to become, the best scientist in the world. Or I got to practice, shooting my basketball. Put the ball in the hole. Right? They don't have time. Why? Because they become preoccupied with dominating and controlling some chunk of the material nature. Right. Then they give up devotional service. Then once they start dominating really good, now my 401k is $200,000. Now my 401k is $500,000. Now my 401k is $1 million. It's not enough. I need $2 million. Right? Then they become attached to matter and its possessions. They can't let go of it. This is mine. Go away. Go away. Don't come near it. This is mine. So they go crazy. It's like insanity. Right? They're ready to kill. Okay, so these are the two weaknesses of the heart. And it's very difficult to purify those weaknesses of the heart. It doesn't happen easily. It requires continual training and engagement in service and hearing, like we're hearing right now. Otherwise, that hard knot of attachment does not become loosened. That desire to dominate does not become purified.
Was there a second one?
Yeah, the second one was you become attached to matter by dominating, and then gradually resulted as giving up devotional service. Then the second weakness is this strong attachment to material things. That and every time you get a new thing, like a new phone or a new computer or a new car, you have to spend time with it, right? You have to learn how to use it, and then it engages you in different things. Like you got your new, just like Prabhupada, when he came to the United States, in India it was a hard thing to get a phone at that time. You'd have to wait. 1960s, and say you'd have to wait, 6 months, 1 year. After giving the money and everything, still you had to wait. So Prabhupada came to New York, and he wanted a phone. He got it almost immediately. Didn't have to wait, So Prabhupada was explaining, now I have this phone, he said, and now people are calling me up 12 o'clock at night. Hello, Swamiji, how are you? He said, what do you mean, how am I? It's 12 o'clock at night. Oh, I just wanted to talk to you, Swamiji. This is not the right time to talk to me. You're disturbing me. He said, now they're disturbing me. He said, before, I wanted a phone in India, I couldn't get it. Here I get it right away. Now they're disturbing me. See, that's what happens with the phone, It's always ringing. You're driving your car. Hello, hello, hello. Oh my God, I had an accident, right? I mean, before you couldn't do that. Now you can have an accident while you're talking on the phone, right? While you're texting, You see, every new machine is entangling. It's like, let's say you buy a cow. That it changes your lifestyle. You have to get up early, or you have a baby. It changes your lifestyle, right? It's entangling. So the machines are just as entangling. An iPhone, people spend all their time on the iPhone. They don't even go to their PC anymore. They just on the iPhone all day long. Okay, so now, these are the two reasons why people have a hard time, even with theoretical knowledge, even with jnana, they have a hard time actually engaging in practical devotional service. Those two weaknesses of the heart. So there was once a letter written to Srila Prabhupada in which a devotee had a debate with a professor. And the professors are smart, right? So he said, well, if God knows everything, then the fact that He knows everything before it happens, that means that we, God's, creatures, we're like puppets or machines. He knows what's going to happen. So we're like a puppet or a machine.
I was just saying that right on Friday after our DYS class,
yeah,
there was a person made the exact same argument.
Yeah, right. They do that, see, because they read atheist web pages. These are classical arguments of the atheists. So they read. So nowadays atheism is becoming more and more prominent. So they're reading books about atheism. They're going to atheist web pages where they give arguments how to defeat anybody who believes in God, right? Just like the Christians, the Catholics and the other Christians in India, they have courses how to convert a Hindu to Christianity. They know all the hot button items to bring up. Whereas a Hindu, you're right. My religion is no good. We have the caste system, this thing, that thing. You're right. There's no mercy. Nobody cares for each other in our religion. So I'm going to become a Christian. Plus, you're going to give me money. I'm going to get free education, maybe even a green card. How can you go wrong with that? So this question is a classical question meant to confuse believers in God. So the devotee sends a letter to Prabhupada and says, how do I answer him? So Prabhupada first begins by saying, Abhajananti mam mudha, manasimtanam asrita, param bhavam ajananto, mamavyayam anuttamam. So, those who are fools and rascals, Avajananti mam mudha, manusim tanam asrita, think that I have assumed this material form, assumed a material body. They do not understand my transcendental nature, and Avajananti mam manasim tanam param bhavam ajananto, which is mamavyayam anuttamam, inexhaustible and completely above any influence of the modes of material nature. So this is the 9th chapter, 11th verse, and Prabhupada quotes that verse first, because these are the arguments of the mudhas, asses and fools. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. So, what does this mean? This means that because Krishna walks amongst us, we think he's an ordinary person like us. So how can he know everything? That's point one. But Krishna also says that Param Bhavam Ajananto. They don't understand my Param Bhavam, my transcendental nature, Ajananta. They misunderstand. And the fact that I'm sorry, Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram, I'm the Supreme Lord of all living entities. So, Krishna also says, Sarvadharmam Parityaja, Mamekam Saranam Vraja. You surrender unto me, we read it today, I will free you from all sinful reactions. So these two verses are the key to the answer. For a devotee, Prabhupada says, Krishna knows everything that's going to happen. Therefore, he's telling you, surrender unto me. Just like if you know, like one of Gandhi's friends told him, don't go to this meeting. We've heard that you might be assassinated. Well, he refused to accept that, and he went and he got assassinated. Right? So that was his friend. He was warning him. And Krishna is our friend. He's warning us, Sarvadharmam Parityaja. Surrender unto me, I'll free you from all your karma, from all sinful reactions. Because he knows what the future is. He knows what's going to happen to us if we don't. So, one can change, we can change our destiny if we listen to Krishna. And this is confirmed also by Brahma. Yastrindra Gopamatamendra Aho Swakarma Bandhan Rupa Falabhajanam Atanoti Karma Nirdahati Kintu Jabhakti Bhajan Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who regulated the sufferings and enjoyments of fruitive activity for everyone. In other words, he's got the supercomputer. He works with Yamaraj, it's his chief VP in the material world. They have a supercomputer that has noted down everything you and I have done in this life and previous lives. So they know, and they have the Manu Samhita, which says what will happen to you if you do this, if you don't do this, like that. So they know exactly what's going to happen to us in our next birth. They have that supercomputer. The United States is trying to make a supercomputer like that, to track every one of your emails, to track this. Microsoft is working with them, trying to help them to get this, Okay, so Krishna regulates the sufferings and enjoyments of the fruitive activity of everyone. Regulate meaning whatever you do, it's noted down, and the reaction, whether good or bad, it's also attributed to you. It's just a question of time, that's all, when you're going to get it. And this is from Indra, the king of heaven, right down to Indra Gopa, this tiniest little insect. Right? That same personality of Godhead can destroy the fruitive karma of one engaged in devotional service. In other words, he can change your destiny also. He knows what your destiny is, and he can change it. He can eradicate the whole negative, positive destiny in the material world, so you're free to engage in devotional service. And that's what he said. Sarvadharmam Parityaja Mamekam Saranam Vraja. Ham Tvam Sarva Papepyo Moksisyami Masucha. Just surrender unto me, I'll free you from all your sinful reactions. Therefore you have nothing to worry about. Nothing to hesitate for, and nothing to doubt. So Prabhupada says, anyone who surrenders unto Krishna, his or her destiny is changed by the omnipotent Lord. Mama Bhuta Maheshwara. Right? He is the Maheshwara, the supreme controller, the supreme owner, the supreme proprietor of everything. And he has this transcendental nature, and he's not an ordinary person. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So, he takes charge of his devotees and guides the devotee how to go back home, back to Godhead. This is called the mercy of Lord Krishna. This is his special mercy to the devotees. He knows everything, but still he says, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam. Just like if you know what's going to happen to someone in the future, what would you tell them? You know that if so-and-so drives a car on this particular day, 2 weeks from now, they're going to have an accident. You know for sure. What would you say? You'd say, well, you wouldn't tell them that you know. You'd say, I'm having a party 2 weeks from now, but I'd like to have it in your house. Say, is that okay? Okay, well, maybe I'll go out and buy everything for it. No, I'll buy everything and bring it to you. You don't have to leave the house. So you're making a plan how they won't have to leave the house and take the car or go anywhere on that day. Right? Without telling them, but you know it's going to happen. And you send people to be with that person in the house, and you bring everything, and you have the party in the house, and they never leave the house. You save them from it. So the same way, Krishna knows what's going to happen to us, and he's telling us, look, surrender unto me, I'll stop the whole thing for you. You'll be free to engage in my service. So anyone who surrenders to Krishna, their destiny is changed by Krishna's supreme power. If you say that no one can change destiny, just like the Shah of Iran before he was thrown out of Iran, I remember I read this in the newspaper. He said, well, there's one thing I believe thoroughly, that is, I believe that what's destined to happen must happen. That's an idiot. That's a person who doesn't believe in God. He believes in the law of karma, but he doesn't believe that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who established the law of karma and can change it. See? So what happened to him? The inevitable happened to him. Because he was an atheist. See? He didn't believe that Krishna can change his destiny. He didn't believe that Krishna is God. He didn't know who God is. He was an impersonalist. Or an atheist. So, therefore he believes in destiny. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I can't stop it. Well, what kind of life is that? You want to be like that? Oh, I can't stop it. It's going to happen. No. We want something to stop it before it happens. So Prabhupada said, but you are thinking God like you. You're thinking God is someone like you. What is destined is going to happen, and even God cannot change it. Then God is impotent? That means God is not all-powerful? This is their version, not God's version. Krishna doesn't say it. This is what the fools and rascals are saying. This is their philosophy, called fool rascalism. Fool rascalism. If you say it real fast, people might think it's a word. Fool rascalism. So what's that? Yeah. So God says, surrender to me and I shall cancel all your destiny. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksishami masucha. God will save you from the destiny that you have created by your own misuse of your limited independence. We did it to ourselves. Nobody else did it to us. By making bad choices in this life and previous life. Yesam tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvanda mohanir mukta bhajantimam jitavata. In the 7th chapter, Krishna says that one who is free of sinful reactions in this life and previous life and does not commit any more sins, they can engage in my devotional service without any obstruction. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful reactions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. This is 7th chapter, 28th verse. So only those people who engage full-time in following the regulative principles of devotional service and who have acted piously in this life and who have been able to conquer their sinful reactions. What's the only way you can conquer sinful reactions? By engaging full-time in Krishna's service. And going for initiation, because initiation means you're freed from your previous karma, or at least it's put on hold, so you're free to engage in devotional service. Now, if you commit sinful actions, or if we commit sinful actions after devotional service, that also becomes an obstacle on our path. And it could cause us to fall away from devotional service. So the assumption is that once you're initiated, you're going to be very reluctant to commit any more sinful reactions, which means violating the 4 regulative principles, basically. But if you do, the only hope we have, or if we do, the only hope we have is to continue in devotional service, but get the guidance of bona fide devotee. Just like, I know this one devotee, every time I gave him instructions, or advice, not instruction, advice, he said, yes, Prabhu, I'm going to do it. And he did the opposite. Every time. Consistently. And every time he did the opposite, he got a bad reaction. He came up to me and said, now, Prabhu, I'm going to listen to anything you say. I understood now. And then the more information the more advice I get, every time he would do the opposite. After saying, I'm going to follow you. After saying, I know now, I've understood now, and I'm never going to make this mistake again. He did it again. Now, let's analyze that. Why would a person do that? And it was proven not just once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, 10 times it happened. And it'll happen 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 times also. Now the question is why? Weaknesses of heart. The 2 weaknesses of the heart. One wants to dominate, and because of the desire to dominate, their devotional service is weakened or is eradicated completely. And then, when they begin to dominate, they become attached to the material things, and they can't think of anything else. Oh, what's going to happen to my house price? Oh, what's going to happen to my 401? My job. Oh, my parents, there's some problem. Oh, my sister has to get married. Oh, this thing. It never ends. Never ends. It's not that, well, when I get to be 40, it'll be all over. No! When you get to be 79, it's still there. When you get to be 99, it's still there. When you get to be 199, it's still there. It never ends. Next life, it's still there. You see? One has to decide, I'm putting an end to this. Okay, I did my duty. Now, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to do what I'm really supposed to do, and that is engage full-time in Krishna's service. In the association of good devotees, not nonsense devotees that talk prajalpa. Oh, you know what this person did? Oh, it's so terrible, you know. And they're having this problem and that. Who cares about these things? Only people whose minds are full of gobar. They can't take their mind, you know, the fly cannot go away from the stool. It feels comfortable on the stool. It doesn't feel comfortable, you know, in a clean place. It only feels comfortable in an unclean place. Right? And a swan does not feel comfortable in an unclean place. It feels comfortable in a clean place. So, you know, do we have a swan-like mind or a bee-like mind, or do we have a fly or pig-like mind? We have to decide. So Prabhupada says, only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously, and who have conquered sinful reactions, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually, they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. So you notice he mentioned the word gradual twice. I can show you many, many places where he says gradual. This is a gradual process. What does he mean by gradual? It means that you come to the right position, and you can come to the right position very quickly by associating with devotees. But then, in the right position, you have to very strictly follow the regulative principles and chanting Hare Krishna and listening carefully, taking good advice, and engaging in unalloyed devotional service, gradually the whole influence of the material nature goes away and you become transcendently situated. You came quickly to the right position, but to hone in the mind, keep it focused always on Krishna, can take a long time. But only because you're in the right position. You surrendered to Prabhupada and Krishna, you accepted Guru, you're chanting. So, coming to the right position can happen very quickly in the association of devotees. Once you get into the right position after initiation, then unless you follow strictly, you will not be able to go to the desired goal, which means completely transcendental to the influence of the material nature. But it's a function of how much we engage in devotional service. If we engage officially, I chanted my rounds today, and the rest of the day I talked nonsense. And it was so pleasant. We were talking about this person, and we talked about that person. It went on for hours and hours and hours. In fact, it went on the whole day. You know. Now I'm in the temple again. I got to be careful what I say. I can only whisper. I can't say it out loud here, but at home I can say anything I want, and it's nectar. You know. So that's just officially following Krishna consciousness. That's not really following. Really following means 24 hours, mind is focused. How are we going to improve this? How are we going to do this? Just like now, we want to start this, put the DYS course completely on the internet. How are we going to do it? We want to do one-to-one tutoring on the internet. How are we going to do it? Right? We want to put the entire Synergy school on the internet. How are we going to do it? This is going to require a lot of organization, a lot of hard work, right? No, let's not do it. It's too hard. Let's just gossip and talk nonsense and just remain the way we are. Just like I remember when we, in 2005, 2004, 2005, when we first decided we're going to build a temple, many people thought, why do we need a temple? We don't need a temple. We're just fine the way we are. I said, well, okay. Look, Prabhu, you don't have to cooperate. I'm telling you right now. I said, you don't have to. But what I expect from you is not to interfere. If you don't believe in it, that's okay. You don't have to do it. I'm not going to hold it against you. But if you interfere, then I'm going to hold it against you. Then I'll act to stop you. But if you just stand back and watch, maybe you'll learn something new, or maybe you're right. Maybe I'm stupid and I made a big mistake trying to build a big temple. But don't interfere. Phalena parichite. Judge from the result. You might be right. Maybe. That's it. And then when we wanted to have this Hariharan, one person came out and said, Maya, Prabhu, this is not what Prabhupada wanted. This is against Krishna consciousness. I said, okay. You might be right. But judge from the result. You don't have to participate. Well, when we did the first festival in Marymore Park, 50% of the devotees did not want to participate. They thought the whole thing was Maya. Then when we came up closer to the event, people saw, wait a minute, this is going to be a big thing. You know, of course, Sanjay Prabhu, he had the vision. He had transcendental vision, right? You still do devotee, but you had this transcendental vision that, yeah, we can do this. A lot of people thought it's impossible, we'll never get it done. You told me, right? What did you say?
So it was my second visit to the temple. I saw 10, 12 devotees and we were talking and you explained the vision.
Yeah.
And it was my first, second visit, never did any public event. I'm sitting there and saying, this is not going to happen. That was firm conclusion. This is not going to happen.
I mean, that's all right. I mean, we don't hold that against anyone.
I was not even involved.
Yeah, you were not involved. I remember.
I took up the welcome service in the because I saw nobody's raising a hand for welcome. I knew I'll do it. And then with heavy heart, I went home and told my wife, this one weekend we are going to give it for the temple.
Haribol. Yeah, so Even that first festival, 50% of the devotees did not cooperate. They didn't want. They thought it was a waste of time, a waste of money. They said, "We're trying to build a new temple. You're going to spend so much money, $80,000. You're jeopardizing the temple, the building of the new temple." I said, "Actually, my hunch is that this will permit us to collect all the money for the new temple." And they said, "No, we're against this." Right? Okay. But I said, "Look, you don't have to agree. You know who's responsible if it's a failure. And if it's a success, you might learn something new. Right? But don't interfere. You interfere, I'm going to do something. You don't interfere, I respect your decision. And we'll see. Let Krishna decide." Right? So, this is a question of destiny. Changing destiny. Right? Here it says, Krishna knows, but he's so kind. Surrender has nothing to do with your destiny. This is another point that's very important. Surrendering to Krishna is not regulated by the law of karma. That means, at any time, if someone chooses to surrender to Krishna in the human form of life, they can be liberated, regardless of what their previous karma is. It's like some people say, "Oh, I can't surrender, I'm too contaminated." That's not true. If Vibhishan surrendered and Ram accepted him, he's a Rakshasa, right? Why can't anybody surrender? It's because it's not regulated by the law of karma. This is what people don't understand. They think, "Oh, the law of karma is supreme," like the Shah of Iran. But that's because he's an atheist. He doesn't believe that Krishna is all-powerful. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's Bhagavan. He's the one who made the law of karma. He can't change it? It depends on us. Because we have this little bit of independence. We can either accept Krishna or reject Krishna. Both of those things are not forced on us by Krishna or the law of karma. But this argument that, whatever happens is destined to happen, we can't do anything, that's an atheistic argument. It should be rejected. But you have to have the knowledge how to reject it. See? And that's what we're talking about now. There is something called predestiny. In other words, when you're born, there's a saying that, your future is written on your forehead. It's all written there. It's all going to happen. But by Krishna consciousness, you can change it. You can erase it. This is what people don't understand. When I understood this fact, I decided to become a devotee. Because I wanted to be able to change my destiny. I was born in a family of meat eaters. I ate meat, I drank, I did all these bad things. And I realized when I came in contact with Krishna consciousness, this was not good. But I was thinking, how can I change this? And then I understood the only way you can change it is by surrendering to Krishna. Just like Arjuna, he was destined to lose the battle of Kurukshetra. But by surrendering to Krishna, he won the battle of Kurukshetra. Yeah.
Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, but he had his son died. So that means the karma will take place. I don't understand that basically.
Well, no. Well, first of all, his son died gloriously. It was not a. Yeah. He didn't die a coward. He died gloriously. He didn't die running away. He died facing insurmountable odds. So it was a glorious death. And Arjuna at first was affected by it, but because Krishna was his friend, he didn't stop. Now, the idea was to stop Arjuna, to discourage Arjuna, Bhima, Yudhisthira, so forth. Because Krishna was there, they didn't get discouraged. Just like the idea was, someone comes up to me and says, "Why do we need a new temple? We have this house, it's just fine." I didn't get discouraged. And someone came up, "Why are we doing Hariharan? This is Maya." Or another person came up to me, "Why are these girls dancing on the stage in the Rath Yatra? This is not Krishna conscious. It'll just agitate the mind of the men." You see. I had to put up with all this nonsense. Now, is what he's saying wrong? not exactly wrong. What's wrong is the way he's seeing it. Because he has that thorn in his brain about sex. So therefore, when he sees young ladies doing Bharatanatyam dance, his mind is getting agitated. And he assumes that everybody is like him. So I understood that this person is a very sick person mentally. But other people, they were watching it, they were enjoying it, and in the end of the day, we had the parade. This is before we had the temple. It was a Rath Yatra. And everything, people got enlivened. Only this one person was upset. Why was he upset? Because his brain is contaminated. He couldn't see the upside, he only saw the downside. So in the same way to Arjuna, he did not become discouraged. At first he was a little discouraged. It's human, it's his son. But because Krishna was next to him and supporting him, he did not stop his devotional service. You see? So that's the difference between a real devotee and a superficial devotee. Real devotee, first of all, it's easy to be a devotee when everything is going all right. There's no problem. Hare Krishna. It's only when things start going bad that it gets really confusing. And people say, it's all because I have Bhagavad Gita in the house. I gotta get rid of this Bhagavad Gita. I can't keep it in the house. It's all about fighting. They have these crazy ideas. Or I'm chanting too much Hare Krishna. It's affecting the way I relate to people. I have to reduce my chanting. Just half a round a day. That's it. And then I'll be normal. So they immediately blame everything on Krishna. But no, real devotee becomes more attached to Krishna when everything starts failing. Just like, what are we all going to do when the United States starts failing? When companies start going bankrupt, there's social unrest, there's fighting. Let's say you read in the newspaper, New York City, a revolution is going on in New York City. People are killing each other in the streets. Okay, now that's on the other side of the United States. But it's just like when Hurricane Katrina happened. It wiped out all of New Orleans. We were reading about it. 300,000 people have lost their houses. People have to live in Houston and Alabama, right? Now you read it, you say, it doesn't affect me. Everything's all right here. So what are we going to do when we read New York City is in a state of chaos? The police have given up. The National Guard can't do anything. People are looting and killing in the streets because there's no money. And the city of New York went bankrupt. They can't pay the policemen. They can't pay the firemen. What are we going to do? Well, it could happen here. It just starts one place, and then and as the government gets weaker and weaker, it could spread all over the United States. What are we going to do? Well, the only thing you can do, the only protection you have, is to depend on Krishna. Right? So someone said, well, Prabhu, maybe we should buy some guns and get some extra ammunition, to protect the temple. Well, we might have to do that, but that's not the real solution. Real solution, instead of hoarding guns and ammunition, we should put aside a lot of supplies to feed people prasadam, and a lot of books, and a lot of things that we have to help people who are in trouble. Even though we are going to be in trouble also. But we should be prepared to help others, our own devotees as well as others. That's our guns. Our tank, our machine gun is Harinam Sankirtan and Mahaprasadam. These are our guns and our ammunition. So we should plan, okay, it looks like if things keep going like this, the United States is going to split apart into different countries, like the Soviet Union. California will break off, Texas will break off, maybe Washington and Oregon will break off, or join California, whatever, And there could be chaos for a period of time if they can't pay the policemen, if the National Guard. The National Guard is a state militia, and then you have the federal army. They're different. So each state has its own militia. its own armaments, because they know it, things could break apart. What are you going to do? Anyway, we have to depend more on Krishna. That means we're a devotee. When everything starts failing, just like once Narada Muni met Krishna, and he said, "Oh Krishna," he said, "I got a question to ask you. I said, I'm really confused." And Krishna said, "What is it, Narada?" He said, the Pandavas, you're their best friend. You're their personal advisor. But their wife was insulted and defiled in public. They lost their kingdom. They're living in exile, and now they're in incognito. So how did this happen with your personal attendants? So Krishna just smiled, and Narada just waiting for Krishna to answer. Krishna didn't say anything. And finally Narada said, "Well, anyway, Krishna, I did notice something else. The worse that their situation became, they became more dependent on you." Krishna said, "You have understood." So, our test is not everything's going all right. We have a new temple, we're going to get another temple, we have this and everything, and we have DYS, it's all going to get... Our test is going to be when everything stops getting good, and there's all around us this chaos. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to become more fixed, or are we going to become, oh my God, forget about Krishna? So the test is when everything starts falling apart. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. The real devotees get more fixed up when there's difficulty. And the superficial devotees, they fall away. They say, "I can't follow this anymore." Just like after the big earthquake in Maharashtra, I think it was like 15 years ago, CNN was interviewing a shop owner in Maharashtra. And said, "What do you think about this?" He said, I think our gods are no good." He said, what's that? He said, "Yes, I have Ganapati in my shop. Every day I'm doing puja to Ganapati. Look what happened. I lost my shop. My house is destroyed. My children are in the hospital. So I'm no longer going to worship Ganapati." You see? As soon as, why... Now let's ask, why was he worshipping Ganapati? Was it for the pleasure of Ganapati? No, it was to get something from Ganapati, right? So, in India, around 12 o'clock, some Brahmin comes with a little bag in his hand. He walks into a shop, there's little shops in Calcutta or whatever, and the owner is sitting there like this, it's like that. So he opens up a little drawer, and there's a little altar there, and the Brahmin sits down, does some puja, like that, and then he puts his hand out, he puts some rupees in his hand, and he goes to the next shop. Now, what is the purpose of that puja? Huh? Prosperity, yeah, material, success, right? So, what happens when there's not success? They rip out that little altar and they throw it in the garbage can, right? They forget about everything. So that should not be our preoccupation. Okay, so this is a very nice history by Prabhupada of how to answer the atheists. So, what time is it now? Okay, we'll stop right now. I had a lot more to say, but we'll say it tonight. Yeah, are there any questions anyone wants to ask? Yes.
So, just now you mentioned too that as the things getting complicated, we become more dependent on Krishna.
A real devotee.
Real devotee. I've seen one particular reverse example of this one. So one of the family I know, they used to come to a temple. And
yes.
His source of living was some contract at the airport.
Contract at the airport. Okay.
Yeah, contract. He used to take the contract at the airport. But some laws at the airport changed, and he lost the contract in between when he had the contracts with them for 5 years.
Okay.
So the laws changed, and so he has no source of living at that point.
Yeah.
So he blame on that. Okay, no, I'm going to the temple. He did not favor me, so he stopped coming to the temple.
Did he go to another temple?
No, he just
Stopped. Okay.
At that point, because he was in touch and he was financially something, so I tried personally helping him something. He accepted. But at that point, then afterwards, he started some new personal business with another guy, with one of his friends. And he gave him $40,000 as a loan to him to start their partnership.
The friend.
Yeah, to one of his friends. That friend, after 2 months or 3 months, somehow he becomes greedy, and he said he was the owner of that business and he wanted to become the partner on this business. So he reverted that, okay, you did not give me any money, and he thrown out to his as a partnership.
This is the man who used to come to the temple.
Correct.
Okay.
So now he goes more another reverse side that, okay, hey, this God is giving me totally...
Oh, you want to know why? Are you asking why this happened?
Like, we become more closer to him, but I guess he went far away from that.
No. Originally, see, it's like why did he come to the temple in the first place? It's like that Baniya in Calcutta who has the professional Brahmin that comes, and he opens up a little cabinet here, the Brahmin's like that, and then gets his rupees and goes away. He comes back again tomorrow. The purpose of that puja is sense gratification. It's not to please Ganapati or please God or anyone. It's to increase his sense gratification. So one who's attached very strongly to sense gratification, they become greedy. You understand? When you become greedy, then you'll do anything to make money, to satisfy your senses. So this man, his puja or his spiritual activities coming to the temple was simply to increase his sense gratification. And then when his sense gratification became frustrated, he became very greedy, ready to cheat, lie, do anything to succeed. So what are we doing? We are trying to convince people that the goal of life is not sense gratification, because sense gratification is going to come whether you do something or you don't. It's limited. And also misery is going to come, whether you do something or not. It's already predestined by a previous life. Predestined. You can't change it by material activities. You can only change it by surrendering to Krishna. This is what, see, we have to be able to explain this to people so they understand. Otherwise, their karma is going to take effect. And some of it is good and some of it is bad. And when it's bad, they lose their faith. And when it's good, they look like they're sincere devotees. Because by coming to the temple, they became successful. Or they don't come to the temple. They went to a meeting, how to make money on the buying houses and selling them, and they became successful. So they keep going to those type of meetings where they can get more success instead of coming to Bhagavad Gita lecture. So their greed is due to a very strong attachment to sense gratification. So we have to be able to convince people this is not the goal of life. Otherwise, you're just going to continue spinning your wheels life after life, looking for the same thing. You already did this for 8,400,000 lifetimes. You had sense gratification in a tree. You had sense gratification flying in the sky. You had sense gratification living under the ground. You had sense gratification living in the water. You had sense gratification in every different possible condition already. In the human life, we should limit it so that we can have the time and the mental equilibrium for spiritual knowledge and advancement and devotional service. Right? That's what Rishabhadev tells his sons. That you shouldn't use this human life for sense gratification. You should use it for self-realization. So the reason he did that, he went progressively more and more bad, is because of frustrated sense gratification desires, and from that he developed strong greed. and therefore he was not afraid to cheat even his best friend.
Is there any way to bring him? Because is there any way to bring him back? Because just to develop the fact, just to say him that okay, keep his faith on until he don't get set up in his business or something. Would he be able to?
No, I mean, look, a person who's doing things like that, they're going to have a little bit of success and a lot of trouble. That other guy is probably going to sue him, or open up a court case again, or shoot him or something, right? They're just increasing their trouble in life. So you have to, the happier you are, the more steady you are in Krishna consciousness, the more nice your kids are, the more happy your wife is. That is the strongest statement to this man, because he's only going to have misery and anxiety in his life. So sometimes you just have to wait, you know. Send him prasadam, invite him over for prasadam. He'll tell you how much money he's making. You tell him how nice it is to chant Hare Krishna. Yes.
So, bro, on the topic you talk about the weakness of the heart, the two things, desire to dominate, and the second is attachment. So on the desire of dominate, it's always like increasing, or it can go down and then again it can increase.
Always increasing.
So regardless of whether in an office or in a devotional service, also we're trying to dominate through.
Well, the idea is in devotional service, our rule is chinadapi sunichena, to be humble. Right? If you bring your karmi attitude to devotional service, you'll only have trouble. You'll never be peaceful. Right? You just cause others to be upset, and then they're going to cause you to be upset. You ever see people like that? They always get upset, even in devotional service, because they have these strong desires to dominate, and when they don't, they get upset. And they cause other people to get upset, and then those people cause them to get upset. It's never ending. So, what you have to dominate is, we have to dominate our own false ego. That's what we should dominate. By engaging ourselves in the service of Krishna. Dominate our material desires. By purifying them and directing, learning how to dovetail our desires into Krishna consciousness with expert help. These are the things we should dominate. We're trying to dominate material objects and people and properties and things like that. We should dominate our false ego, our material desires. You can only do that by surrendering to Krishna's devotional service, learning to get along peacefully with devotees, becoming more and more humble, more and more gentle, more and more serious about pleasing Krishna with words, with mind, like that.
So while practicing devotional service, so this desire of domination will totally go off. The desire is purified, right? When we go further advancement in Krishna consciousness.
It's not just practicing devotional, it's this hearing. Devotional service is the platform for hearing regularly about Krishna, as we're doing now. The more you hear about Krishna, the more this domination concept gets purified. And the fact that you heard properly is that you increase your service also. You become better and better in your service. And then you become better and better in controlling your mind and your senses and lust, anger and greed. It's a whole culture. Everything depends on the hearing. Very active, serious hearing and repeating and remembering. See? Just like Karna, he was cursed that he would not be able to remember his mantras when he needed them the most. So, if we're only hearing 1 minute a day and doing nonsense 23 hours a day, then when a situation comes up when we should remember Krishna conscious instructions to apply it in a practical situation, we won't be able to do it. Because 23 hours a day we did nonsense. Only 1 minute a day or 2 minutes a day we listened seriously. So no one can tell you whether you're making spiritual advancement or not. You know yourself. We know ourselves if we're free of lust, anger, and greed. We know what's going on inside. Nobody else can figure it out. Of course, an expert devotee can figure it out, but normal people can't figure out, what's going on in here. Just like when you go to the Safeway and you're checking out, and the cashier said, "Hello, did you find everything you were looking for? Is there anything else I can do for you?" You think this person is like, my God.
No one is speaking anyway.
Such a nice person, like a personal friend, like a family member. But you don't know what she's thinking. I'm so sick and tired of doing this. This person here is a real jerk. They might be thinking like it, but I hope you found everything you were looking for. See? You don't know. So I don't know what's in your mind. You don't know what's in my mind, but you know what's in your mind, and you know if you're really free of lust, anger, and greed, or if you're not. So that's the test. You can test yourself. You don't need anyone else to test. Of course, expert devotee can tell, but most people can't tell.
One more example you shared during Seattle, we had a Rath Yatra that one of the devotees was sharing about that stage event, and then he pointed out, but not every devotee can able to understand what you're trying to present through that event. So as being a part of devotee, either we have to have a full faith on the leader, what he's doing, we just follow and accept.
You don't have to. You can say, I don't agree with this. Fine. Then you just step back. And Phalena Parichita, you'll judge from the result. See, our problem is we want to be the judge and the executioner. Krishna is the judge and the executioner. Prabhupada is the judge, and not us. We should wait and judge from the result. The result you're going to see. What's a Rath Yatra festival? Only the last 2 days. You'll see whether people are more contaminated after or more purified after. You'll see from the result. So you have to learn to be a little bit patient and not be the judge and the executioner. Okay? Haribol. Okay, we'll stop now. Thank you very much.
How to purify the eyes? Vision means everything is vision. How you see the things?
Well, if you see Krishna standing next to the object of desire, then you will be very careful what you do. Well, you have to theoretically, okay, let's say you're looking at something. Like you're going to buy a used car. Now, before you came, they polished it really good. There was some dent, they pushed it out artificially. They put some putty over it and painted over it, so you can't tell it's a dent. The carburetor is almost ready to break down, but you can't tell, right? All you see that you feel good when you sit in it. It's nice and clean. It's nice and shiny, and your false ego takes over and says, it's cheap. It looks good. I feel good in it. I'm going to buy it. Right? Then after you buy it, on the way home it breaks down. It costs you $1,000 to get it towed. You get, they tell you it's going to cost you $15,000 to fix it. You only paid $3,000, right? Then you realize you made a big mistake. So the idea is, how can you look at something and see it for what it actually is? Not see it the way your mind projects on it, but see it for what it is. That's the training we get by hearing regularly. Just like I might see, I'd say I see a pretty girl. So what do I see exactly? Well, one way of looking at the pretty girl is there's a bag with stool and urine in it. You can look at it like that. Because if you make an incision starting here, go right down, and open it up, what do you see? You see blood, urine, stool, mucus, bile, all these things. So the bag might be very beautiful, just like, they have these gift bags, but what did they buy? They buy, tuna fish, and they put it in a really nice bag. So you're looking at a bag, so wow, they must have something really good inside. You look inside, it's a can of tuna fish. You say, oh my God, But when looking at the bag, I thought it was a wonderful thing. But when I looked inside, I saw it was stool. So if you can look at something and analyze it. See, our problem is we look at things emotionally and we project on that thing our hopes and our dreams, our desires, our attachments. But if you can look at something objectively, what is this thing walking with high heels and earrings and perfume on it? It's a bag with stool and urine in it. Okay, here's somebody else walking with a sari with their head covered. I don't feel the same thing as what I feel looking at this girl with high heels and, her split showing and, big hips and whatever, I'm looking at, oh my God, that's so good. But actually it's not good. I just make a little incision and I see it's full of stool, urine and blood. Immediately that attraction is lost. So I'm just attracted to the bag. I'm not really attracted to the person. And what is the bag? It's an object of sense gratification. I don't really care about the person. So you have to have a mind that thinks critically like this. Otherwise, I had this one customer, his name was Mr. Levy in France. And he was an outdoor vendor. The man had become very rich. So I used to deliver him. He was a Jewish guy. I used to deliver him. And whenever I would deliver him, we'd be out on the street, on the main street with hundreds of people walking by. And he'd be counting the money, but he'd be like this. He wouldn't be looking at the money. He'd be looking at the girls walking by. He'd say, oh, did you see that one? Did you see that one? I said, Mr. Levy, I said, if I took my underpants off and gave them to you, would you put them on? He said, are you crazy? That's dirty. I said, but every woman that walks by, you want to have sex with them. That's clean. In other words, my underwear is dirty. But every woman that walks by, he wants to have sex with him. He understood what I meant when I said that. He said, no, that's clean, he said. You see how crazy he is? A completely crazy man. The way he sees the world. And what was funny was, Mr. Levy's wife was having illicit sex with everybody on the street. All the other vendors. Right? And he didn't know about it. Everybody else knew about it. He didn't know about it. Because his mind was totally in Maya. He couldn't see straight. He couldn't think straight. And right under his nose, he was, being cheated on. And this is a true story. It sounds horrible, but that's life. This is a true story. So unless we correct our vision, we're going to be like Mr. Levy.
But without chanting, it's very difficult.
It's impossible. But more important than chanting is associating with good devotees. More important, because if you associate with devotees, good devotees, you will chant. If you chant on your own, eventually you'll stop. Association with devotees is the most important thing. So always remember Mr. Levy. It's closer to us than you think. It's very easy to go back to that. Just by being inattentive to chanting and not taking seriously association with devotees, avoiding devotional service, we can go back to being Mr. Levy. Haribol. All glories to Prabhupada.
Next Sunday, you are in town.